All right, so a couple questions. Chris kicked off More Than Sunday. Good job, dude. It was awesome, especially talking about Sundays and how it's important and everything that's going on. So let's talk about the extremist, because we can say all we want to, and even next week will be a little bit more broader in terms of work and everything in our lives. So let's talk specifically about Sunday stuff. A couple of questions. Let's talk about the extremist on both ends when it comes to music, because I know this is your favorite topic.
Yep.
Let's talk about the one that absolutely hates singing.
Right.
Okay. This is the person who, no, they don't go to concerts, they don't go to the recitals, they don't care about. They didn't even want their kids to watch Sesame Street or hear songs about.
Yep.
They do not engage with music. And I know you made a comment in the message about kind of praying through words and things like that.
Sure.
Tell them, see if you can go dig a little bit deeper. What's the why behind why they should still be engaged? I mean, they're not going to come 20 minutes. They're going to come 20 minutes late.
Yep.
They don't care. They understand. Make a joyful noise, whatever. Just keep going. They maybe have heard this their whole life. Mm-hmm. What's some other just powerful whys in terms of, and ways, maybe ideas that they can engage with?
I think the first why, why it's important for him, is because it's very clear that you can't get that experience of the gathered church worshiping together by yourself.
Right.
It's cool to put on a Bethel CD or put on whatever in your car. That's a great experience. But even if you don't like music, you're not going to do that anyways.
You're not going to do that anyway.
So you're robbing yourself of this piece that's, I think, at the core of who people are, is having this shared worship experience as a whole. So that's, I think, the part of the why. But then part of the practice is, I feel like you just got to find something that's not terrible. You know what I mean? What's something about that time that's not horrible? Is it maybe the words are really cool? Maybe you find it's kind of like what I said with the person who has a hard time paying attention during the message.
Right.
Find one freaking thing. Find one thing that you can latch onto and roll with that. I think that's kind of the start. You got anything?
Yeah, I was going to say the only thing I thought of was that I've said to people before is that it is kind of the time where it's driven by unity.
Yeah.
So the words on the screen, it says, God, you are all we need. Mm-hmm. It's a time when you're corporately gathering with other believers and you're agreeing with that statement, even if you don't want to sing it. It's a time of agreement. It's a time of unity.
Yeah.
So you don't, like you said, you can't get that by yourself.
Nope.
And so I'm totally with you. That's great. All right, let's take it to the other extreme, because we talked about we're kind of intentional. We're not emotional for emotional sake.
For sure.
But they are the what do you call it? The spirit-filled. Worship. They have the corner on the market as to what worship is, and it should be emotional, and it should be completely driven by how you feel. How do they balance out? When you read, they don't. The reason they're here is they don't go to church with a prayer confession, or those kind of things where it's an intellectual worship thing. How do they, engage? They struggle because nobody else raises their hands beside them.
Oh, yeah.
And all they want to do is run through the aisle. Just give them a little bit of how do they engage and be okay with how they're personally engaging versus how the corporate group is engaging.
Yeah, I think there's a way.
Sometimes there can be some judgment. I guess that's the other thing.
100%.
There can be some judgment. There are some insecurity, like I want to do more, I want to be more, but
I don't feel comfortable doing it. Because of what's around you. I mean, I think first it has a lot to do with let's assume they have good motives. Let's assume they're not being weird about stuff, right? I think it comes down to being able to identify how do I not put my expectations on someone else?
Right.
You know what I mean? Here's a great example. When I read, I like to read nerdy books. I'm a nonfiction kind of. I'll read some fiction books and stuff. I like that stuff sometimes. But as opposed to my wife,
right? Who doesn't like your books?
Who doesn't like my books?
Right.
She likes some of my books because she's a very smart woman. But she doesn't want to read all the nerdy books. She'll just read the really good ones that interest her, right? So if I put onto her, why wouldn't you want to read my books?
Right.
That's dumb. That's she might not want to read it all, right? Or same thing to your kids. If you expect them to do what you expect of yourself, it's just not going to come out on top for yourself. So in that situation, I think you got to stop putting your your mental framework around what worship is onto someone else. Yeah. Now, I think honestly, I love it when we see people expressing themselves freely, because honestly, they're helping to lead just as much as I'm helping to lead on stage, just as much as any of our worship leaders are helping to lead.
Yeah.
And so there's a modeling aspect to that that we need. And for me, I think it's just an encouraging thing of be mindful. There's a time where you can tell of what you're doing can become distracting. There's some scripture even about that of I think it's in 1 Corinthians where it talks a little bit about
14.
Exactly, where it talks about decorum and how you act during a worship service or something like that, right? And the point where it gets too much is when it becomes distracting for other people, right? And so just being mindful of that, of like, if you're in a place where like everybody's like running, go for it, man, hop in.
Hop in, take a lap.
But if you're going to be the only person, it's going to detract from what God's trying to do here. Not that what you do, not that running or anything like that specifically would be an act against God or something like that. It's the fact of like, understanding what's going on and engaging in that. I would say that is disengaging and doing your own thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Rather than engaging with what God's doing in that place. So I think it's a little bit of it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that because that to me is one of the bigger pieces. Like you said, it's a piece that says, there's a reason we corporately worship and there's a reason that we personally worship. And you and I worship probably differently personally, right? My wife doesn't even like I put the Southern Gospel on, and she just checks out, But it's the deal. You might do that personally differently, and there's a reason that it's personal, right? There's a reason that it's personal, but it's also it goes back to when you're in a corporate group and you are corporately in unity about this thing. Then you are looking for ways to engage, which I love that phrase today, to engage in it with what's going on. So I went to 2 churches today. I went here, and then I went over to see the church plant.
Awesome.
At Lovely Norman. Well, they did 3 songs I didn't know. But I didn't have any trouble looking at the words, feeling what they wanted to do, seeing the hearts of the kids that were leading. It's just like, this is it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if it was my style or the same thing.
Think about
songs I knew. I was able to engage.
Think about when you've gone to Kenya and you have no clue
what
they're saying.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know what I mean? That's a great example. Like, you have
Kenya's
no clue what they're saying. Yeah. But you
for an hour,
you
by the way.
See it.
For an hour.
Exactly, yeah. But you can still engage by like, man, God help me. If you want to gift me with understanding Swahili right now, I would take it. But right. Short of that, man, I'm into it. Yeah, 100%. Awesome.
All right, well, thanks, man. We're looking forward to doing it next week, and thanks for kicking us off. Have a good one, guys. Thanks.